This is the second video on that 5 trig equations. We are just going to look at example 1C and 1D, which is solving a trig equation that is equal to a negative value, which is a very similar process, but just means you have to use your cast diagram in a slightly different way. Okay, so hopefully you've had some practice solving with just positive only. Now we're going to look at solving when it's equal to a negative value, and we'll talk about how this does. So fundamental when we use our calculator for this, okay, write this at the side. You do not put the negative sign into your calculator. Okay, so the negative is only to basically tell us what quadrant our angles are going to be in. We don't actually use it to find the size of the acute angle. So what we're going to do in our calculator first of all is get the acute angle for sine of x equals minus 0.6. So we're going to say that x is equal to the inverse sine of only 0.6. Don't put the negative in, right? And we'll just get our acute angle there. So x is equal to the inverse sine of 0.6. So we get a value for x as 36.9 if we're going to round it to one decimal place. Now, here's where the cast diagram becomes really important, and it kind of tests your fundamental understanding of the whole thing. So write down your draw your cast diagram C-A-S-T. So it's x, 180 minus x, 180 plus x, and 360 minus x. Okay, so ordinarily what we did before is we would tick the A and the S, because those are the two quadrants where sine is positive. But this all stems from the initial question. We are not looking for where the sine is equal to a positive number. We are looking for the quadrants where sine is equal to a negative number. So we are not ticking the A and the S this time. Our two solutions are in quadrants 3 and quadrant 4, because that is where sine is equal to a negative number. So if you look at the sine curve, it's positive in the first two quadrants, then it dips negative in the next two. So that's the difference between these, is we're looking for where the sine curve is equal to a negative value. So this time the acute angle is actually not one of our solutions. So you will sometimes see people refer to, rather than writing x here, sometimes they'll say A dot A for acute angle, because it's actually not technically correct to put x equals 36.9, because that's not one of your solutions in this case. It's the acute angle which we then use to find our two solutions. So our solutions for x become, we have to do both of these two things with our 36.9. So we have to do 180 plus 36.9, and we have to do 360 minus 36.9. So just work out those two numbers, and then that's your two solutions. So 180 plus 36.9, that's going to be 216.9 degrees. And then the second one, take away 36.9 from 360, what's that going to be? 330, 324, 323.1. And this is our two solutions that time. So if you drew the sine curve, and if you drew the line y equals minus 0.6, think about that in your head. That would be a horizontal line that's below the x-axis. It means the curve would meet the line at those two values on the x direction. Okay, let's try the next one for cosine. So again, we've got cosine of x is equal to minus 0.1. We're not going to put the minus into our calculator. We're going to find what's called an x equals the inverse cosine of just 0.1, and I'm actually going to start writing this acute angle A dot A. I'd like you to start doing that as well. So rather than writing x at this point, because technically this acute angle is not going to be one of our solutions. So acute angle A dot A is equal to the inverse cosine of 0.1, which is giving me this time 84.3 if we're rounding to one decimal place. And we would tend to round at this stage rather than writing out this full 84.26082952 and then adding that to something we would tend to round it to one decimal place at this stage. So the acute angle is 84.3. Now we need to figure out where our two solutions are. So draw your CAST diagram, CAST. Draw what happens in each quadrant, 180 minus x, 180 plus x, and 360 minus x, and then really important that you get into the good habit of ticking, writing this down, drawing the diagram with all the information, and then ticking the two quadrants. So again, we go back to our original statement that said, where's the cosine curve equal to minus 0.1? So it's which two quadrants is cosine not positive. So it's positive in A and C, which means it's negative in S and T. So to get our two solutions this time, we're going to do 180 minus 84.3 and 180 plus 84.3. And if we can do that, that will be our two answers. So x equals 180 minus 84.3, that's the first one, and 180 plus. Okay, so work those out. So that's going to be 95.7 degrees for the first one and 264.3 degrees, and that's you done. So you should now be able to really do a mixture of positive and negative, but focus first on practicing for picking those quadrants for negative, stating that it's the acute angle, and then finding your solutions for x by doing your two sort of calculations after. Okay.